Hello viewers, and welcome to the latest installment of the LOTR LCG Progression Series, a production by Cardboard of the Rings, the bi-weekly podcast about the Lord of the Rings the card game, which is a living card game by Fantasy Flight Games. My name is Mitch.
And my name is Matthew.
And today we're going to be taking a look at the third scenario of our Against the Shadows cycle of adventure packs. This is Encounter at Amon Dîn. So Matthew, why don't you introduce us to our story?
Having escaped from the Druidan forest and witnessed the demise of the conspirators by the arrows of the Woses, the heroes have begun their journey back to Minas Tirith. In the morning of the second day, they awoke to a grim sight. Dozens of columns of smoke were rising across the hilly farmlands of Anorion. It seems death had crossed the Anduin after all. As our heroes warily approached the nearest of the fires, they came upon two farmers hiding in the hedges. The frightened bondsmen told of roving bands of orcs scouring the countryside, bringing destruction to the defenseless herdsmen and farmers of the surrounding lands. They told of a particularly cruel group that assaulted the nearby village during the night. They feared the villagers were dead. Approaching the village, the heroes saw signs that the citizens may not have been completely helpless. Several orc bodies lay crumpled in the streets, and a crude barricade of horse carts and earth-covered hay bales protected the town's inner square. Only the buildings on the outskirts of the town seemed to be sacked and burning. As the heroes approached the barricade, the villagers eyed them suspiciously, their expressions wavering between mistrust and hope of assistance. Smoke lay in a thick haze in the streets, reddening eyes and shortening tempers. What appeared to be a nobleman and his escort of guardsmen were helping the villagers with the defenses and in caring for the wounded and burned. They seemed haggard and tired from the night's fighting. As the heroes approached, the sooty and weary nobleman squinted through the acrid haze at the newcomers, his hand moving to his sword. Then, as a faint gust of wind cleared the air for a moment, the nobleman broke into a wide grin of recognition. It was none other than Lord Elrond. "Out of the west comes hope unasked for," he called. "May I be first to say that you are well met indeed." After a brief greeting, Lord Elrond grimly told the heroes of the plight into which they had fallen, and how he had been sent northward about a month ago on the realm's business. Denethor had deemed it wise, in case Caer Andros should fall, to raise the levy of Anorion and prepare for the evacuation of the Northlands to the safer side of the Ramas Ekor. Upon receiving news of the victory at Caer Andros, Elrond disbanded the levy and for the past week or so has been seen to the steward's business in the region. Alas, he grimaced, even as the victory of Caer Andros held back the tide of Mordor, the defeat must have left a substantial number of the enemy trapped on the western side of the river. One would think those vile creatures would seek to return to their master by any means possible. No such luck. Instead, they've come west to punish the local countryside, burning and murdering where they go. Elrond went on to tell of how the roads of Anorion had quickly become far too dangerous for traveling. Even with an armed escort, Elrond was forced to seek a tenuous security of the present village. "A large group of the enemy has descended on the land surrounding the Amon Dîn," he continued, gesturing at the great hill that dominated the northern skyline. "They're led by a particularly nasty captain who calls himself Gulat." He spat out the ugly name and pointed at the barricades. "We barely held them here last night. I don't think they were expecting any resistance. The enemy will not make that mistake again." Elrond wearily glanced at a group of tired villagers leaning against a nearby wagon, armed with harvesting scythes and hay forks. "I didn't like our chances of surviving another night." He turned to the heroes, a wide smile breaking across his sooty face. "Now that you're here, I find cause for hope. Maybe we'll save this village yet. What do you say?"
Well, I think I'll say we might as well go ahead and take a look at our player deck. So starting with myself, I'm going to run a different version of the Outlands deck for this video. So in the Steward Sphere, I ran Hirluin, Barivor, and Theodred, and this is another version that I've got some experience with. So I'm running Elrond and Glorfindel in addition to Hirluin. Elrond has that universal resource match for allies, just like Hirluin does, and Glorfindel is exceptionally powerful to start. So I've got a bunch of Outlands allies. My Wardens of Healing are going to be Enhanced by Elrond. I've got Sneak Attack Gandalf, Light of Valinor, Asphalloth, and then primarily Expert Treasure Hunter as my own brand of card advantage, since I don't have Barivore or Peace and Thoughts. And what are you running, Matthew?
I decided to run a sort of thematic deck for this particular playthrough, and that is a Gondor deck. So all of my heroes and almost all of my allies are Gondor. I've got the leadership version of Boromir, Prince Imrahil, and Denethor, a host of Gondor allies, and a host of Gondor and resource-generating effects. So hopefully these two decks will be enough to rescue the villagers.
Alright, well, now that we've covered our decks, why don't we go ahead and shuffle those. I'll make myself the first player, and let's draw our opening hand of 6 cards. It looks like mine was all right. Certainly some powerful effects in here, but I think I'm going to take a mulligan just looking for a power start. And how about yourself?
Yeah, I've got some good stuff as well, but not a whole lot for the early game, so I'm going to take a mulligan as well.
Yeah, I'm not too sure I feel great about my second hand, but it's certainly, I think, going to work. So I'm stuck with it.
Yep, I'm stuck with mine as well, and it should maybe be okay.
Alright, well, now that we've covered that, let's go ahead and take a look at what makes this scenario so unique. So, quest card number 1, Savagery of the Orcs. This is set Gulat aside out of play. So this is a 2-phase quest. This Orc Chieftain here doesn't actually come into play until our second quest phase, and let's return to our quest card before I explain anything else. We make a burning farmhouse the active location, and what's special about this is this has the villagers keyword, so it has villagers 4. So when a location with villagers enters play, we put a number of resource tokens on it equal to that villager's value. At the end of the round, we discard 1 villager token from Burning Farmhouse, and it has some victory points. We've got 2 objectives here in the staging area. So if at any point these villager resource tokens are discarded, they end up going on dead villagers. But if we manage to successfully explore a location that has some of those remaining, they instead go on rescued villagers. So at the end of the game here, if we have more tokens on rescued villagers than dead villagers, we end up winning. And there are a ton of different encounter effects that get nastier and nastier the more tokens we have on dead villagers. We also have an objective ally here that's going to alternate with the first player. It's Lord Alcaron. He's a respectable defender, attacker, but what's great about him is his response. So after a villager token is discarded and would end up as a dead villager, we can exhaust him to instead place that villager token on a location. And of course, if he leaves play, we lose the game. But let's try and avoid that. So, this says to shuffle the encounter deck and reveal 1 encounter card per player and add it to the staging area. So let's go ahead and make sure this 33 card deck is shuffled. I will go ahead and add some cards. So encounter card number 1 is going to be Marauding Orc, so it's going to come engage with us right away. As soon as it destroys a character, we accrue dead villager tokens. Encounter card number 2 is going to be each player discards the top card of his deck until the end of the phase. Raise the total threat in the staging area by X, where X is equal to the total. So this is going to do a whole lot of nothing, but let's each discard a card.
Aww,
those suck.
Yeah.
But only 2, and of course it has no effect. So let's go ahead and flip to phase 1B. This is going to have villagers 5, and as soon as progress tokens would be placed on this, we instead move some of these villager tokens onto rescued villagers. And as soon as those are gone, we advance to the next stage, and Gulat comes out and engages with us.
Okay.
But now that we've introduced the scenario, now we know what we're up against. Let's go ahead and do our initial turn and draw 1 card. I think what I'm going to do is I'll trigger Darren's Runes, drawing 2 cards, hoping for some discard fodder. And as much as it pains me to do it, I think I'm going to end up getting rid of a Burning Brand. So definitely not the greatest. I am going to go ahead and do Expert Treasure Hunter, and I'm going to stick that on, I think, Glorfindel here. And then I think I'm going to spend 2 resources to do Arwen Undomiel, and that is going to be my turn.
Okay, I'm going to start off with Wealth of Gondor to add 1 resource to Denethor's resource pool.
Okay.
I will then spend both of those resources to place a Burning Brand on him.
All right.
I'm going to save my leadership resources, and so that's it for me.
Okay. For questing, we are pretty likely to deal with some enemies coming off the top of the encounter deck, but I suppose there's no reason I shouldn't send a fair few, presuming you're going to take this enemy here.
Sure.
I think I'm going to have Arwen boost up Elrond, since he doesn't have the benefit of Burning Brand, and I should be able to get a healer into play before too long, so I'm going to send a total of 6.
And I will send 2 to make it 8.
Okay, so grand total of 8. We're only up against 2, but let's see what we pull. So encounter card 1 is going to be Gondorian Hamlet, so this is Villagers 3, and while it's in the staging area, it says, after a treachery card is revealed, discard 1 villager token from Gondorian Hamlet. So ideally, we'll travel there pretty soon. Encounter card number 2 is going to be another Gondorian Hamlet.
Okay.
So we're up against a total of 6 threat. We're going to end up making 2 points of progress, and we've quested successfully, so I'm going to name the type Ally and discard a card. And that's kind of strange, but looks like that is discarded with no effect. So, kind of a shame, one of the only times I've used Expert Treasure Hunter, yet to be impressed. But that is going to lead us to engagement. We have to take this marauding orc.
Yep, and I'll go ahead and take him.
Alright, so I'll bring him down to you. Here's a shadow card for him.
Denethor will defend.
Alright, so Denethor defends. The shadow effect wouldn't have done anything, but it's cancelled. And Denethor will take 1 point of damage.
Okay.
And then, for attacking back...
Boromir will attack.
Okay, so couple points on the marauding orc. And then I guess that's combat, so let's get rid of that card. And why don't we refresh?
Yep. And then we have the end of the round effect on our active location.
Right. So Alcaron switches control. At the end of the round, we have to discard 1 villager token from Burning Farmhouse. Do we want to exhaust Alcaron to prevent that?
Yeah, I mean, we might as well, I suppose.
Alright, so I'll exhaust him, so prevents that discard effect. And now we can go ahead and start our new round. So let's go ahead and do resources, draw 1 card, and what are you going to be doing?
First card I'm going to play is Gaining Strength to add 1 resource to Boromir.
Okay.
Then I'm going to play a copy of Guard of the Citadel.
Alright, 2 attack.
And I wish I had another lore resource, but I don't, so that is it for me.
Alright, so for me, I'll do 1 resource of Glorfindel for a Light of Valinor.
Oh, excellent.
And I suppose... Do you happen to have any healing ability coming anytime soon?
I just happened to draw 1, so I might be able to play it next turn.
Okay, well then why don't I start putting out some characters. So I'm going to do Warrior of Losernock, and then I'm going to spend another point for, I think, an Amphalos Herdsman.
Okay.
And I think that is going to be it for me.
Okay, I will send 3 to the quest.
And I will do 3, 4, 5, 7. So, looks like a grand total of 10 this time. And let's see what we're up against.
And then Arwen's defense boost?
Yeah, I think once again I'm gonna trigger that on my Elrond.
Okay.
Alright, so encounter card number 1 is, oh my god, Gondorian Hamlet again. And now just watch, there's going to be treachery cards in mass.
Yeah.
And encounter card number 2 is going to be Secluded Farmhouse.
Okay.
So, wishing we had Northern Tracker. Looks like we're up against 9. We do quest successfully for an entire 1 point.
Okay.
And I'm going to go ahead and name the type Ally for Expert Treasure Hunter.
Oh, boo.
God damn it. You know, I thought about naming Attachment just in case this would have been there. And that is some fail.
Yeah.
So that is, I suppose, going to bring us to combat. So here's a shadow card for the Marauding Orc.
Would you like Elrond to defend for me?
You know,
His defense is beefier. Don't have to. I mean, I certainly can do it with Denethor.
Yeah, I guess my only thought here is there are shadow card chains in this encounter deck. Do you have
Well,
a
this
healer?
cancels it, so it wouldn't happen. Well, yeah, it's fine. I'll just do Denethor.
Okay, so
Probably safe.
let's flip the card, and it's going to be attacking enemy gets +1.
Okay.
That is canceled.
Yeah. So Denethor would have gotten, or Elrond would have been damaged as well.
Right.
Okay.
So that is pretty much that. And for attacking back.
Boromir will swing.
Alright, so that's another couple points, and the Marauding Orc is killed, its shadow card is discarded, and looks like that is going to be the round.
And, yep, end of the round, we lose another thing.
Right, so let's refresh. If you'd make me first player, I'll go ahead and bring Alcaron back over to my side. At this point, we've got to discard a villager token. No reason not to trigger Alcaron now, and instead place that villager token right back on the farmhouse.
Yep.
Let me go ahead and do my resources and draw 1 card. And I think I'm not actually going to play anything this turn, so how about you?
Okay, I am going to pay 2 lore resources for a Warden of Healing, and that's it for me.
Awesome. Alright, well, certainly effective, and maybe I'll get one into play myself before too long. So for questing, I think I'll go ahead and do 3, 4... 5, 7, just like last time.
Okay.
And I think again I'll boost up Elrond.
I will send 3 again. And then I'm going to pay 1 from Boromir for a sneak attack Gandalf.
I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me.
Okay, awesome. So that's going to put us at...
Yeah, and I'll commit Gandalf to the quest as well, so I'm up to 7.
Alright.
And for his ability, I am going to draw some cards.
Great.
Oh, and I got some good stuff.
Awesome. Very cool. So, we've got 14 committed to the quest. Let's see what we reveal. So, encounter card number 1 is going to be Kraven the Eagle. So, discard the character with the fewest remaining hit points.
Oh, no.
Or that character's controller can discard 3 cards at random from hand. So it looks like every ally... Oh, well, I guess it's...
That's going to have to be my Warden of Healing.
Right.
Which is horrible.
Or you could discard 3 cards at random. Next turn, I can do some healing. And I do have a Sentinel Defender.
All of my cards are really good. So losing 3 is going to be pretty painful. I guess I'll just discard my Warden.
Alright, so Warden of Healing is killed. Shame we didn't get a chance to benefit from his ability. But,
I should have triggered him earlier. Yeah.
Let's see what else we get. So encounter card 2 this is going to surge. So this forced effect reads, after a treachery card is revealed from the encounter deck, discard a villager token. So this is going to surge. We raise each player's threat by the number of damage tokens. So there are currently no damage tokens on that dead villager's card. This is going to surge, and now that this card has been revealed, that after effect, I would imagine, triggers. So we're going to have a total of 3 dead villagers.
Okay.
And of course that is going to surge to a Gondorian hamlet.
Okay.
So looks like we're up against 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We're going to break even.
Okay.
Exactly. I suppose at the end of the quest phase, Gandalf will bounce back to your hand.
Yep, which readies Prince Imrahil.
Alrighty. And for travel, of course, we don't have an option.
Mm-hmm.
For engagement, I think the best case scenario is giving this enemy to you.
Mm-hmm.
Here's 1 shadow card for it. I'll have Elrond use his 4 Sentinel defense, thanks to Arwen, to block for you.
Perfect.
And the shadow card
Oh, no.
is deal the attacking enemy 2 additional shadow cards. Let's see how awful this gets. So Shadow card 1 is going to be if it destroys a character.
Okay.
Shadow card 2 is going to be attacking
no.
enemies now 6. Steal it another shadow card. And this is going to basically end up being just 6.
Okay.
So Elrond takes 2 points of damage.
Okay.
And how do you want to return?
I will swing with Boromir and Prince Imrahil.
Alright, so 6 is more than enough. So Kraven the Eagle is going to be destroyed.
And there go all those treacheries.
Right, right. So another enemy gone. Of course, the staging area here is just full of locations.
Mm-hmm.
And let's go ahead and refresh.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll make you first player. I will transfer Alcaron to you. Shall we trigger him again
I
to
guess
stave
so.
off?
Yep. Yep.
Alright, so we'll trigger him yet again at the end of the round. Let's do resources. Let's draw a card. I'm going to do... well, I suppose, what are you going to be doing?
First thing I'm going to do is place a Dunedain warning on Denethor.
Okay.
And then I am going to play Envoy of Pelargir for 2.
Alright.
And then she can put it on a Gondor, so I'll just put that right back on Boromir.
Okay.
So that will be it for me.
Alright. Well, for me, why don't I do 2 resources off of Glorfindel for an Aether Swordsman. And I'm going to do 2 resources off of Elrond for a Warden of Healing.
Perfect.
And I'm going to go ahead and trigger that right away.
Okay.
So 2 off Elrond, 2 off Denethor. And that is going to do it for me. So
Okay.
for questing, what I'm going to do is I'll strip 1 resource off Hirluin, and I'm going to go ahead and do Sneak Attack.
I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me.
And I will put Gandalf into play.
Okay.
And I'm also going to end up drawing 3 cards.
Okay. So I'm committing 4 to the quest.
Okay. And I will do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Total of 16 on my side.
Fantastic.
So I think grand total of 20.
Mm-hmm.
As always, I'll go ahead and pick Elrond, I think, for the target of Arwen's ability. And encounter card number 1 is going to be a Burning Farmhouse.
Okay.
So now we might not be able to avoid losing some villagers.
Yep.
But encounter card number 2 is going to be an Orc Arsonist. And this is when engages a player, deals 1 shadow card. And this is... certainly not the worst enemy in the world. So we're up against 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 threat. We're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 progress. So we get 3 rescued villagers. Let's go ahead and control V to add the Burning Farmhouse to our victory display. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4 additional villagers. For travel... do we want to go to the Burning Farmhouse?
I mean, that certainly has more villagers, but the secluded farmhouse is more threat. It's 3. Although we've got to reveal the top card of the encounter deck to travel there. So I think we should... it's only 1 threat, and we're really sacked up with a lot of stuff here. So maybe one of the hamlets? That way we don't lose more villagers if a treachery is discarded?
Sure.
Because that'd be a lot of villagers.
Sure. Let's go ahead and travel to this Gondorian hamlet that's got the most villagers left alive.
Okay.
So, we've done that. For engagement, do you want the Arsonist?
Yep, I'll go ahead and take him.
Alright, so he's down to you. His forced effect doesn't do anything because it's when he engages. Gandalf bounces back to my hand. Readying Imrahil.
Mm-hmm.
Here's 1 shadow card, an ineffectual shadow card
Yep.
for the Arsonist. It triggers, there's no shadow effect.
And no damage.
Right. And for attacking back.
Boromir and Imrahil for the win.
Alright, so let's go ahead and get rid of that enemy. Matthew and I are playing very quickly because he's got places to be. I forgot to trigger this Expert Treasure Hunter, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to say ally, as I should always do. And finally, I get an ally to put in my hand.
Perfect.
So... that's combat.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, why don't we go ahead and Control R to refresh. I'll take control of Lord Alcaron. At the end of the round for this burning farmhouse, I'm going to exhaust Alcaron to put that on our active location.
Okay.
Since he just has to put it on something. So, let me do my resources. Let me draw one card. I suppose for my turn, all I'm going to do is 3 resources to put Forlong into play.
Okay.
And I still need a tactics ally before he gets his ability. And then I'm going to hang on to my other resource in case we need to cancel something.
Okay.
But what are you doing?
I'm going to spend 2 for an Athelian tracker.
Cool.
And then I'm going to spend 4 for Faramir.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I got the father and sons team on the table.
Well, fantastic. That's definitely going to help get through this quest phase here.
Yeah, and that's it for me.
So, for committing characters to the quest, I'm going to go ahead and do 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 14.
Okay.
And how about you?
I'm going to do 3.
Okay.
I'm going to trigger my Athelian tracker.
All right.
And I guess there's no reason not to trigger Faramir now
Okay.
on your side of the table because you sent more.
Sure. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that is going to boost me up to boost us up to a grand total of 24.
Okay.
Plus your Athelian tracker. So let's see what we reveal. Hopefully not treachery. Encounter card number 1 is going to be Burning Farmhouse with Villagers 4. Again, Northern Tracker. Good card in this scenario, I think.
Yeah.
Counter card number 2 is going to be an enemy. This Marauding Orcs. We're up against 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We make 11 progress. So there's going to be 7 left after we get rid of this hamlet. I'll add that to the victory display. I'll rescue 4 villagers. I'll drain the 2 remaining villagers from our current quest card to rescued villagers as well, and then we pass on to our next quest phase. So we add Gulat here to the staging area. He's got X equal to 3, so he's threat 3, attack 3, defense 3, 7 hit points. Whenever he attacks, we gain 1 dead villager, and we can't beat the game unless he's in the victory display. So let's flip our quest card, and this says, if an attack goes undefended, we discard X villager tokens from rescued villagers instead of damaging a hero. And X is the number of damage that would have been dealt. So I suggest we try to avoid doing that. So 15 progress, all we need to do is kill Gulat, and then push through to the end.
Okay.
So, for travel, do we want a burning farmhouse or a Gondorian
Again, I
hamlet?
still think if we get a treachery, that's 4, or that's 3 that we would lose from the Gondorian hamlets.
Okay.
So I'm still thinking they're the better option.
Alright, well, we can certainly try and go that route. The other route is, obviously amassing however many, but I suppose let's go ahead and make any of these Gondorian hamlets are active.
At this point, I don't think the dead villagers could catch up, but who knows?
Right. I would imagine not. But
And for engagements, I can certainly take Gulat if you take the Marauding Orc.
Sure. So we can go ahead and distribute those like that. And why don't I go ahead and do shadow cards as follows. So for my attack, I'll have 4 defense Elrond as the defender. And there is no shadow card. Would have been nice to see that during next turn staging.
Okay, I'm going to spend 2 for a 4 Gondor just to boost myself up a little bit.
Okay.
And I'm going to defend with my Envoy of Pelargir.
Alright, and let's see what the shadow card is going to be. It's going to be defending player raises his threat by 1 for each damage on dead villagers.
Alright, so raise it by 3.
Right.
Oh, well, when Gulag attacks, would that have already happened? We place 1 damage token on dead villagers?
Yes.
So I raise my threat by 4?
Right, because I guess when attacks is when you choose it, step 1 of enemy attack resolution.
Yep.
So good catch. Let me add another point on there.
Okay, so he's swinging for 4, so my Envoy, even with the boosted up defense, is dead, which readies Prince Imrahil.
Sure.
Attacks?
For me, all I'm going to do is Glorfindel, 2 points onto the Marauding Orc.
Yep. If only Boromir still had a resource token, your Warden of Healing could have helped.
Right. And looks like yet again, I've forgotten my Expert Treasure Hunter.
Wait, all characters get +1 attack. So did you count that with Glorfindel? And your Warden of Healing would also have 1 attack.
I did not, actually. So again, Matthew and I are playing this as quickly as possible. Warden of Healing attacking for 1, Glorfindel attacking for a total of 5 is going to be exactly enough to kill this Marauding Orc.
Okay.
So let's get rid of him. Definitely not used to playing alongside a Gondor deck.
Yeah.
That Expert Treasure Hunter, I always forget to trigger it. Let's go ahead and do Ally. And that is discarded.
All right. So not forgetting my extra attack, Boromir is 4. Prince Imrahil is 4, that's 8, and then 9, 10, which is just enough.
Alright, so let's go ahead and Control V to add Gulat to the victory display. His shadow card is discarded, and at this point, it's just going to be a push to the end. Alright, well, why don't we refresh? I will make you first player. At the end of the round, we now have multiple burning farmhouses. So let's go ahead and strip 2 of those, and I'll exhaust Alcaron. I suppose you'll exhaust Alcaron to put that villager on our active location. And let's go ahead and do resources and draw 1 card. I ended up getting some willpower for us.
Okay. I'm going to play Wealth of Gondor to put another resource token on Boromir.
Okay.
But I actually cannot play anything. So it is you.
Well, for me, I think I'm going to go ahead and do 1, 2 to do a second Atir Swordsman.
Oh, perfect.
And let me shift my resources around slightly to do an Errand Rider, since I suppose that'll benefit from Faramir. So if we do 1 giant push, I don't know if we're going to end up making it, but no reason not to, I guess. So I guess that is it for me.
So for questing, I again will do the Athelian Tracker, which we might have forgotten to negate the threat last turn, but we passed the quest anyway, so it didn't matter. And then I'll send my usual 3.
Sure. Unfortunately, Forlong's ability is still not active, but I'm going to go ahead and do 3, 6, 9, 11, 14, 16, 19, 22... And I suppose I'll send my Errand Rider as well.
Okay.
So I've got 22 cent.
Okay, I'll trigger Faramir on your side.
Alright, so that boosts me up by an additional 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So I've sent 31.
And I sent a measly 3.
Alright, well, 34 ends up being pretty respectable. And yet again, let's see what we reveal. So encounter card number 1 is going to be, when revealed, each player must take a villager token from rescued villagers and place it on a location in the staging area if able. If no tokens were placed, this gains Surge. And let me see here. This is after a treachery card is revealed from the encounter deck. So I wonder if I cancel when revealed, does that still count as it being revealed? I imagine the card itself is still revealed.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, so I will go ahead and pay 1 to do a test of will in order to get rid of that.
Okay.
So it doesn't surge, fortunately, but I guess that is gonna
we lose 2
kill
more.
Some of these villagers here, so that'll be 2 additional dead villagers.
Okay.
Encounter card number 2 is going to be Orc Rabble, which this time I remember its threat is now 0. So we're up against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 versus 34 is going to end up being 25 progress. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, which fully explores this location, so it's added to our victory display, and that's 3 more rescued villagers, and then that makes 21 progress on Quest Phase 2B. So, it happened awfully quickly, but at the present moment looks like we've got 21 out of the 15 progress required for victory. We have a total of 5 victory points. There's no Gulat in play. We've got 6 dead villagers, but we've rescued 16. Those numbers look pretty decent to me, so Matthew, I suppose before we talk about this play experience, do you want to wrap up our story?
Gulat is dead, and the village is safe. In the Death and Ruin, a stoic Alcaron reminds you of how much worse a punishment these lands would have suffered should Caer Andros have fallen. Even as the villagers bury their dead and begin repairs, the wives bring out their best foods and tablecloths to celebrate the village's survival and to give thanks to their saviors. As you feast, the distant fires seem much diminished. You hope this is a sign that local populations elsewhere are also managing to overcome the marauding bands. Lord Alcaron proves a pleasurable companion on the return road to Minas Tirith. He beams of pride in the countryside, extolling the history of Enorion and of how the ancient walls of the Ramas Ekor were built by Denethor's father. Alcaron points to where great efforts are underway to repair the old defenses. Gondor will never fall, he exclaims, not as long as its people live their lives in defiance. He avoids looking east, the flicker of doubt in his eyes betraying the bravado of his words. As the towers of Minas Tirith rise into prominent view under the white peak of Mount Mindoluin, a group of riders carrying the banners of Gondor come upon you on the road. As they approach, you see they are soldiers of Gondor in full plate, their faces serious and intent upon their task. The captain of the company approaches, nodding respectfully as he recognizes Lord Alcaron. The steward is calling the Pelennor to arms, the captain says. With the enemy repelled at Caer Andros, Lord Boromir takes advantage of their disarray, and we move to retake Osgiliath. He gestures east. I am to send all able swords to join Lord Boromir's forces. As the soldiers continue north, Alcaron shrugs. I guess the feather beds and sweet wines of Minas Tirith must wait a few days more. He turns his horse to take an eastern roadway. Lord Boromir is not one to be kept waiting. He stops for a moment and looks questioningly at you, patting the pommel of his sword. Able swords? I do hope we can ride together for a few more hours, friends of Gondor. You glance east, where the black peaks of the Mountains of Shadow are crowned in a sullen haze of gray cloud. It seems Gondor has not finished with you yet.
All right, well, now that we've wrapped up our narrative, any final thoughts about Encounter at Amon Dîn?
Well, I will certainly say that I like the new mechanic. I think it's very cool, the rescuing villagers versus dead villagers. I've played this quest a couple of times, though, and I hate to say it, but I find it far, far, far too easy. Again, armchair quarterbacking, but I probably would have designed this quest with a standard like Dead Villagers X keyword or something on the quest cards, where X is the number of players in the game, so that at least in our game, 2 villagers would be dying per round. In every game I've played, the numbers look something like this. It's very, very easy to rescue villagers because you do so on every location, but it's not actually all that easy to lose villagers or to have them die. So if there was at least 1 or 2 villagers dying around, it would make for a much more tense game. You'd have to really sort of balance, do I actually want to make progress or do I need to clear more locations? So I'm sure that there are times I could play this particular quest where I would reveal a bunch of treacheries while I have a bunch of Gondorian hamlets out, and that would really rack up the dead villagers. But Gulat doesn't add enough. The treacheries really don't add too many. So I think it's a really great idea that just falls a bit too short because it's too easy to again, rack up rescued villagers and not easy enough for the encounter deck to kill villagers. So with that said, I think it's a good quest, it's fun, but due to the ease of it, I mean, honestly, I didn't take this quest that seriously, so I just threw together a deck in 5 seconds and put in almost every Gondor card I could find, because I knew my deck didn't have to work that well, and it would still beat the quest. Now, I think Faramir was definitely a lifesaver once I was able to get him out on the table. He really helped you with your numerous characters add a bunch more willpower. Boromir's ability was fun. I thought that 4 Gondor play was quite fun and quite thematic. So I enjoyed this playthrough. I enjoy the quest. I just wish it offered a smidge more difficulty where it'd be a little bit more tense, where the burn mechanic is quite tense. We're trying to save Lake Town there from burning down. Here it's the same thing. We're trying to save the city from burning down in a sense, but you just don't rack up that damage as much. So do I like it? Yes. Is it a stellar home run, 10 out of 10? Not for me.
I definitely think this is an interesting quest. A lot of players kind of played this a few times and said, well, this is the new passage through Mirkwood, so it's the new introductory scenario to show all of your friends LOTR LCG, to introduce them to some kind of unique, clever mechanics. It's fun in that there's a lot of different tokens to keep track of, but I think you hit the nail on the head when you basically said you slapped a deck together. I kind of threw this deck together. When we sat down to record this video, we had something like an hour and 15 minutes, and we kind of rest assured that we could play a lot faster than we normally do, be a little bit looser with our decisions, and of course, we've made a number of errors as a result of that we kind of caught after the fact, but all in all, it kind of boils down to a very quick, interesting experience, but definitely not very difficult at all. So I don't see myself replaying this one very often. Maybe it's a little bit more interesting in 3 or 4 player games. The encounter deck is something like 50% enemies. If you do happen to reveal a lot of treacheries, it is possible that you can mass those dead villagers maybe a little bit more quickly than you can handle, but taking a look at the staging area, even if we'd have had these Gondorian hamlets empty, it only would have been an additional 2 villager tokens. So if you've got one spirit player that's running something like a single northern tracker, if I'd have gotten my Asphaloth, it would have been so easy to explore these locations en masse. Something like 5 quest points on this burning farmhouse is a lot, but at the same time, they just seem so easy to overcome. I mean, we've got a unique objective ally sitting here that just helps us to save villagers. He probably ended up saving something like 5 over the course of the game here, and even if he wouldn't have been in play, we'd have still had far more rescued than dead. So it's an interesting scenario. I think it's very beginner-friendly, but for a serious player looking to be challenged, that's just not what this is. So it was a cool opportunity for us to try out some different decks. This is probably my less preferred Outlands playstyle between Barivor and Theodred, Glorfindel and Elrond, and of course we got to see the Gondor trait on your side of the table. So an interesting video. I'm sure it's going to be short and sweet, but I can't think of too much else to add.
No, I just, it was nice to have Prince Imrahil return. I think it's been a little while. I'm not sure we've used the leadership version of Boromir yet, so that was fun. Yeah, I mean, it's a nice quest. You're right. Lord Alcaron is almost not needed. I certainly look forward to the Nightmare version of this quest, which I'm sure is years from now, because we're only getting, 3 every... Is it half a year? I don't remember how often they come. I think they're just every 6 months. So it's going to be a long, long, long time before we get a Nightmare version for this quest. But I can only imagine that the locations and the treacheries and the new enemies will be killing villagers left and right. So I enjoyed this playthrough. I like it when they come up with new mechanics. I just wish it was perhaps a smidge more difficult, or in other words, a smidge more easy for villagers to die to make it a little more tense. But it was fun, and I'm definitely looking forward to the next adventure pack and seeing what's in store for us.
Yeah, I definitely liked your idea of making more of a point to have the players balance. Do you want to rescue villagers, or do you want to progress to the end? But apart from that, I suppose that brings this video to a close. So as always, thank you guys so much for checking out another entry in the Progression series. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel if you have not done so already. At the time of recording this episode, the Progression series is caught up to the Against the Shadow cycle of adventure packs. So, I'm not really sure what you're going to be seeing next. It could be our Assault on Osgiliath player card review if our next adventure pack comes out. It could be one of our 3 core set Nightmare scenarios. It could even be the Black Riders Saga expansion player card review if they happen to unveil that at Gen Con. So, no matter what's coming up next, we'll see you again soon.